Okay, I think it's time and we can get started. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for being here this morning. First day of NRF 26, that's always a very exciting time of the year, and the first day is always the most exciting day. So we're very happy to have a chance to share with you some stories and some experience. I'm here with John and with Craig, which will introduce themselves to talk about winning the modern buyer, how a strong digital foundation delivers the customer experience shoppers expect. That's a mouthful of a title, but I think it says what it needs to say. It's how do you set up the right foundation so that you can build the customer and product experiences that will allow you to thrive and succeed in the new world in which we are. I'm Roman from Akeneo, and as I mentioned, you will hear directly from the people who have the experience and know the stories, John and Craig. And to get started, John, do you want to introduce yourself and the company you represent, City Furniture?
Absolutely. Thanks, Roman. So my name is John Gobel. I'm with City Furniture. I've been with them for about 4 years. My journey really started with a company called Zumba Fitness. I worked with them for about a decade and went through operations and went all the way to run all the global sales. I then worked for a private equity company. We did startups for apparel businesses. So spinning up a lot of different websites and a lot of different times to drive revenue, which kind of led me into City Furniture. And at City Furniture, I'm the VP of Digital Commerce. I oversee the digital roadmaps for everything we're really doing for immersive design, product data, everything on e-commerce site, chat sales, immersive, and a few other areas there. And for a little about City Furniture, we're a top 20 furniture retailer. We have the #1 market share. We're based out of South Florida. So within really our Florida market, we have the biggest gain of share. And we're a 54-year-old company. So, we've really had our share of taking product, understanding what that data means, and then really translating into modernization of what we're doing today. So,
cool. Thanks for sharing that. And so you've been there for about 4 years now. What are the key challenges or what are the topics that are top of mind at City Furniture overall today?
Yeah, I say that we have 3 really big challenges. The first and foremost is really looking at agentic AI and understanding how that's going to impact our product discovery. The second is really the transition from SEO to AEO and really understanding what that means. And the third is really just kind of concentrating on a strategy for a product enrichment. Definitely see that as a challenging point.
Yeah, deep changes indeed. Thanks for that presentation. Craig, the Paper Store, can you tell us a bit more about yourself and the company?
Thank you. My name is Craig Hewitt. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for TPS Group Holdings, which owns 2 banners, the Paper Store and Uncharted stores. I've been with the organization for 19 years, so I've had the pleasure of seeing it from our infancy stages of just a few stores growing into what we're trying to be a national retailer. Still family run and PE backed. And I've had the pleasure of really running every department in our organization, and I've spent the last 10 years as our Chief Operating Officer really building the foundation for our growth and development and the rebrand in the markets. And I do lead our IT strategic planning and transformation that we've been going through for the last 3 years.
Cool. And same question I asked John, what are the key challenges that you're seeing today and the top of mind topics for the Paper Store?
Sure. So a lot of things keep me up at night and challenges, but specifically as we're going through this transformation, word transformation, generic term, but as we're modernizing our tech stack, understanding our legacy systems, how we move things forward, the #1 thing that keeps me up and I continue to think about is how we're optimizing that data and to actually execute these new tools more seamlessly with the data. We're not only in a transformation for the new products we're putting in, but getting out of that legacy thought process, the source of that data, and trying to actually make it translatable and actionable in our business.
Cool. So interesting to hear both of your stories. 4 years experience in a company, 19 years experience, looking more towards the future of agentic AI, looking more towards the optimization of what is done internally. But at the heart of both, having the right data, the good source that then can feed into the various processes. Thank you for the intro. I myself am Roman. I am the Chief Executive Officer at Akeneo. Akeneo is a software vendor. We develop and sell a solution to manage product data, product information, the whole life cycle of product information, and do that to be ready for the age of AI. We're trusted by more than 1,000 brands and distributors across the world, including City Furniture and the Paper Store. Thanks a lot again for sharing your stories. One element that we've observed, Akeneo is a company that was founded more than 10 years ago because at the time there was already significant pain on the ability to correctly gather and share with customers proper, complete, and comprehensive product information. And you'd think that over the past 10 years, the technologies and the companies have evolved in such a way that this problem should be close to being solved. It doesn't seem like it's exactly the case. We've run a survey and found out that in 2023, 13% of consumers expressed dissatisfaction on the comprehensiveness of product data provided by companies. And what does it look like now? 30% of consumers are expressing dissatisfaction. So a problem that every company knows it's key and that can impact business performance across the board as well as customer satisfaction, on which we think there are new approaches and new ways to solve them efficiently, is actually growing more rampant than it was in the past. And this has significant impact just on one dimension, one thing, abandoned purchases, lost carts. 66% of consumers are saying that they have already abandoned a purchase due to missing or inaccurate product information. And out of that, that can have impact across the full value chain. So why is this happening? Well, yeah, technology is moving. We are all thinking about agentic, all thinking about AI, all thinking about the full stack on which we are operating, all of the processes. But ultimately, data remains the backbone of all of that operation, and the way the data is being put together, the way it's being used, and the way it moves through the overall customer experience is not necessarily getting the attention that it needs because it is a very hard problem. And ultimately, it's only being magnified by the changes and the emergence of AI commerce, because if you don't have good AI without good data, you definitely don't have good AI commerce without good product data. That's what we're trying to solve for, and it is something that is top of mind for Akeneo today. But maybe we can take a step back and look at it from the consumer perspective. And based on how things are being done today, I'd love to hear from both of you where today you see trust breaking first in the customer journey. Hello, Craig, do you want to start with this one?
Sure. So our business, we're highly seasonal. We have a tremendous amount of SKUs. We move through our stores on a regular basis. And over the last couple of years, our customers becoming less tolerant when we have the opportunity. So we are still a strong brick and mortar company. We're continuing to grow our store count. Our web business is really designed as a marketing engine and to be able to take that same experience from our in-store, the product, the emotions you're feeling when you come in to purchase. And when you don't have accurate product data or able to translate that to a consumer on the web, or the product information is inaccurate, which can happen quite frequently with the number of SKUs we try to serve up, we lose
SKUs do you serve?
Regularly, we have about 700,000 active SKUs. Granted, a lot of our stores have deep areas like greeting cards and some other things that have a high SKU count, but the number of SKUs we turn is significant. We also curate and produce a lot of our own product along with selling other brands. So that product that we're curating, building, and adding to the assortment can be really challenging to translate that. Plus, being a legacy, we've been in business for 80 years, so we still have a lot of old source systems that's coming in. So the importance of not losing that customer on the web, because about 80% of our in-store transactions, they typically start on our website, and they're looking at the product, if it's available in store, what can they feel about it, and if that isn't right, we've lost them, and then we've lost them to even come into our store, which the best experience for our consumer is actually in our store.
Well, 80% starts online, and if you actually lose them online, you won't get them on the store. Cool. What about you, John? Are you saying similar things on your side? Where does trust break with your customers?
Yeah, I think definitely a lot of similarities, Craig. So 80% we believe about our customers are doing research heavy online, either while they're in the showroom, before the showroom, at some point in that buying cycle. We really see the trust breaking and being made on the PDP. We've focused a lot of time just kind of making sure that we're displaying information the best we can and everything on there, but the need to just really have the accuracy is 100% at this point. Really, customers are ultimately demanding having that information. Even with over 800 attributable fields that we have in our categories, I don't think we have enough. And then being able to maintain and give the information that's correct and convey that in a way to the customers is really the main challenge. The trust factor, as soon as there's any kind of abnormality or kind of defect in there, a missing kind of field, I think we lose that trust. Not only do we lose that trust for the online, but that customer could have potentially come into the store. We also feed that data to our retail store associates. So, I mean, this is information that is dependent across everywhere, across the journey. So really seeing that as that major break and where we're committed to fixing.
Interesting to see the alignment between your two stories of how online experience drives in-store performance and how you see the possibility of actually completely losing a potential customers just because the data about your product is not the one that it should be in terms of completeness or correctness. Well, thanks for sharing that. And as we said in the intro, it's interesting to see that we continue to fail at that problem. I mean, it does seem like data should be solved. And I think we've been saying that for better part of 40 years now, but we're getting there. And I think it's interesting to see how much of a business impact this might have, even though it's sometimes still a bit too considered as a back office problem. I recently read something that said that 40% of returns are due to incorrect product information. I mean, returns is what it's the margin of many of us in the room and retailers. And accurate product information can have a massive impact on that, but still, data is still seen as often not enough of a business asset and too much of a technical asset. The second question I had for you was to understand at what point would product data stop being an IT problem and actually become a business driver for both of you? Which one wants to start on this one? You want
I can take it.
Go with it?
Yeah, so really when you think about the IT and product data, just as we started this journey for City Furniture specifically, PIM came in as a necessity for us to do e-commerce. As a 54-year-old company, we never really had the need to convey all this product data. That's where it kind of started and now lives as a digital strategy. The IT portion, I think, still is a big need in the architecture and how we're communicating, syndicating that data out to all the different places that we're doing it now. We only see that continuing to multiply, especially as we start talking about agentic. But it's definitely a shared effort, I think, as you have your digital teams that understand all those customer touch points where that data is being used, all those customer pieces for product and just understanding and just all the solutions of it, the dimensions of it, just everything you could possibly think of. But also your buyers and your merchants on the team as well, because making sure that we've got that standard, that making sure we understood why this product came into the lineup, why is this assorted, and really capturing all that information. So it's definitely a kind of a shared ownership, a lot of joint custody, but really I think requires a full kind of digital solution and digital strategy to drive it forward.
And what are the points of friction on that? Because you usually have IT wanting to rationalize and have as little metadata as possible so that it's easier to govern. But then on the marketing and sales side, you want to have as broad descriptions of your product and understanding as possible. Do you see this type of friction, and how do you solve for that?
I think the main way we have to think about it and the way we actually kind of convey out the value of it is really just kind of thinking it from a customer-centric standpoint and really conveying what's that value, what's that feature that we're delivering, so it's kind of more clear from the business side, whether it's driving engagement, it's driving the conversion, the add to cart rate, really just trying to understand it from the usability as well as from the success metrics for it.
That makes sense. What about you, Craig? What are you saying?
Yeah, I echo everything John just mentioned, and we're in a similar journey there. Onus has always been on data, has been in our IT department, and we are slowly trying to shift that philosophy away to other areas of the business, that our IT team should be focused on the infrastructure, the data governance, the cleanliness, the hygiene of it, but not necessarily focused on the strategy and what we're doing if we're going down this journey. For us, yes, our PIM is powering our e-commerce right now. We're continuing to expand in other parts of the business, but this data and the pulling it all together in the PIM is not just serving the web, it's serving other areas of the business that people don't think about, which to me, as an operator and as we're trying to get as efficient and streamlined as possible, it serves a lot of other areas of the business, finance, warehousing, that has all these data points that we're not harnessing and leveraging that would have dramatic impact on just their operations and the way they're looking at it today. So a big focus for us is, yes, the product information to sell to the consumer is great, but there's a lot of information on these product records and areas that fuel other business decisions, from freight to packaging to everything that we're doing. And that's an area where I'm trying to extract that to the other business units and have them be accountable to see the benefits of leveraging it through our PIM in one data source.
We also have the deep analytics. You can really see the pathway for that as that's coming up with agentic and AI emerging. So,
And are you seeing traction with the various business units today on that topic?
We are. We still have some lack of buy-in from certain areas, but merchandising specifically, and because it's not something they're used to doing in our organization. It's always been an IT focus, and we're trying to explain the evolution of why it's important to have our merchants engaged, to be able to support this, to be able to push this with their teams, because it's a full loop. And when they realize if they're not enhancing it, they're not doing the bare minimum, and IT's not doing it, no one's doing it. So someone has to do it. And the best way in our world, especially with product, is from a merchant's perspective and our marketing perspective, it invokes that feeling, that emotion with the experience that you have in our store. Because you can buy our products anywhere. You don't have to buy them from us.
And any advice for people in the room facing the same challenges of putting a bit of ownership on other teams on the data, on how you actually get them to shift their mindsets on the topic?
I find, and it seems kind of silly to say, but bringing it back to basics and not being so technical about it, and really understanding the outcome at the end when you're asking someone to do it. Don't make it complicated. Don't bring AI into it with people who, you know what I mean, like literally take the business concept and the problem and break it down for them, but have to prove out that this hard work, and that, because everyone says, I don't have time, I have too much on my plate, I don't have time to focus on this. But if you can kind of show and story out the outcome, and you can see the benefit, which we can, it changes the mindset, especially in our merchandising world, of the importance of taking action on this. It's not just about margin anymore. It's not just about the assortment. It's really about, once we have that, what we're doing to empower it to actually sell.
And you mentioned the fact that potentially consumers could buy the same things even cheaper in some other places, and it's all about the emotion that you create by that. And that's something we're seeing too. There's a part of the survey that we did recently that shows that shoppers are willing to pay up to 25% more if the product information is more complete and more comprehensive, because they can actually connect to the product. So there is a direct impact on having the right data on the business side. But I think that takes us to the next and maybe the most interesting question. Obviously, AI, everybody talks about it all day long, and we do see data as being a foundation of that success, but then there's lots of noise, there is lots of potential value. My question to you is, where do you see AI today or in the near future actually really adding value? And where do you think it's too noisy today to be able to move on that? Maybe, John, you want to get started? You mentioned agentic AI as one of the key topics on your side.
Yeah, I think for today, we're seeing a lot of retailers that are using AI chatbots on the site, giving that product information. You know, I think what you see there is they're still pretty limited on what they can tell you, right? It's really a summary of like the product, the product description, some of the attributable data that you have there. Where I see really it going, and what we're trying to invest in for this year, is really making sure that we have all that data accessible for all the agentic AI offsite. So we're really investing in our MCP protocol, which is going just as wide as we possibly can with our product data. In addition to product data, like you have to have, you know, your availability, you know, what is, you know, the in stock in a particular store. We need to understand kind of just how you differentiate even as a retailer with the particular SKU. So what we see for agentic right now, I know Gartner says, you know, in the last kind of buying season, it was maybe only 2% were using agentic for kind of product comparison. We see a really big asymmetrical growth that's going to happen, I think, at some point later this year in the rise in that, you know, and really thinking about not only are you worrying about your on-site kind of customer, but that off-site experience that the customer has, whether that's Perplexity, whether that's OpenAI, where they're comparing your product that might be similar, whether it's for us a white fabric sofa, but also your reputation as a retailer, your product data, your availability, your pricing, your shipping, like your shipping charges, everything needs to be widely available for these engines to make the evaluation because they are shopping on behalf of the customer. So I think really understanding that impact and where the growth is going to come from and wildly change our product discovery and product comparison for the industry is going to be very different.
Yeah, so most of your efforts are around the forward-looking view on AI and setting up the right foundation. So you're seeing data and MCP in place so that you can support that transformation. Thanks. What about you? What's on your mind when it comes to AI at the Paper Store?
Sure. So we certainly don't want to be on the bleeding edge, and we certainly don't have the capital to test as some of the bigger retailers can. So our number one thing is learning what others are doing and their lessons and learning from that. Yep. So we'll be looking at John this year. Similar to John, we obviously enhancing our features functionalities with Akeneo. We've spent the last couple of years building out a pretty robust data warehouse to pull in all of these source systems of data and trying to, again, streamline it down and utilize it. For us, really where we want to focus on our AI journey is adding that personalization into the shopping experience on the web. Like I said, you can have all the data points, you can have the product description, but you need all those other areas to be able to pull information in to make it actually personalized to the consumer and what they're asking. Because we're a gift and a specialty trend retailer, it's that evoking that emotion is very hard to kind of automate and have that voice. So a big area for us is trying to slim that the product information down enough so that it's clear and actionable, but also be able to be expressive enough to be able to translate without losing the customer online.
Do you use AI to generate product description, and is there specific work you do on tone of voice and the rest to make sure that it aligns with the emotions you want to create?
Sure, yeah. So we use embedded AI tools that are in some of the platforms we have now to go scrape data, to be able to pull it in. But the really critical element for us is the hygiene of that data to give the personalization the way we want it to evoke in the consumer. So there's some tools out there right now that we're testing with, but really it comes back to internally making sure that that data is scrubbed and clean to where we want it to be, that matches our brand and what we're trying to portray on our web and in our stores.
There was, I don't know if you saw, but there was an article on Friday saying that OpenAI's shopping ambition hits the wall of messy data reality. So it seems like every company in the world is facing the same challenges. Even OpenAI, if you don't have the right data to begin with, you're not going to get the right output.
I think even from a data standpoint, we all think about data. It's not just the color, it's not just the dimensions. Really, as we think about data of the future, it's really about conveying the value of that product. What's it solving from a problem standpoint? How is this differentiated in the market? And then for us in furniture, it's very much like fashion. There needs to be a lot of understanding of like what's trending, what's now. Why would it associate this with the new trend, dopamine chic? And having that be picked up in what the AI and what the actual search is happening. So it's thinking about data in a whole new kind of dimension that we need to give it contextual knowledge to actually be effective in the future. So well beyond just ones and zeros.
We hear a lot about being able to capture the intent, moving from keywords to intent. And so how do you currently approach that, identifying the pieces of information that are more than ones and zeros, but more the trends and the intents and the rest? Do you have a specific process to do this?
I think that's the one area we really need to kind of understand and prioritize on, like, what's that data, where is it needed, where's it going to come from? Because there isn't really a source or a scrape that can kind of give that data. It really takes that human influence, and then to do that at scale between thousands of SKUs as you bring in a new collection, that's the challenge. So that's talk to me next year.
I can talk to you today. I think we have some stuff around analyzing user-generated content that we could discuss to help with this type of things. But thank you very much to both of you. We're reaching the final question, which is the one that's probably the most interesting to the people in the room. You are embarked on the journey. It's a long journey, still a long way to go. What would be your main advice? And I'm sorry because it's probably going to draw on the things on which you face the biggest challenges. What's your main advice for retail leaders that are starting on this journey? What is the one bit of wisdom or two that you'd like to share with the room?
I'll go first. So if we're just starting to look out there, I would say, and I know this is pretty cliche to say, but the alignment across the business and how you're going to look at this, because there's all different approaches and opinions on what you want. And when you try to bite off more than you can chew in a certain scenario, you end up complicating it and creating this, spaghetti mess of data and not really understanding it. So I think a very clear, intentional plan that is not all at once. I think it is really important to slow down a little bit, even though tech is moving really fast, and making sure that it's matching your objective and your brand and the outcome that you're looking for. Because creep starts very quickly, and when you do that, you're not executing, and the intent behind it kind of gets lost many times.
And who owns a plan like this? How do you actually manage to get a plan out? Because it can easily be either too consensus-driven or too Frankensteinian with everybody's opinion in it. How have you done it to build a plan that you think is realistic for the company?
Yeah, so for us, at least, it starts with like myself, and we're talking about just really describing the intent of it. I'm not a technologist. I'm not deep in any of these areas. I'm an operator at heart. So what I'm able to do is work with all of our departments, take that influence, and then kind of translate into, is this what we want to have see achieved? And then we put that kind of in motion. But you kind of need a fully technical, you need all parts of the equation in different departments to add their influence, but you do need someone who then is going to kind of bring it down, simplify it, and make sure that you're clearly going to achieve what you've told your peers during the project.
What about you, John?
Definitely, I think the advice I can give is, like everyone in this room, we all hear CEOs wanting an AI strategy, right? AI strategy. Well, I think it all starts with the product strategy, the product data strategy. Really having that solid foundation of like what is the inputs that are going to drive any of these solutions that we're putting into the organization. So really approaching it from that standpoint, making sure that you're weighing out the value and the strength of like why we're investing in the product data, the cleanliness, the hygiene, the governance, the sustainability, the enrichment pieces, and understanding where that strategy is going to go, that where AI is going to utilize that at the end point over the next, whether your timeline is 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, it's really starting from the ground floor and then taking it forward of where it's going to be used to build those requirements for today. Because if not, you're always going to be chasing catch up, or you're going to be having downstream data kind of output problems that are just going to be hallucinations, or just, it's going to look like a failure to your CEO in the future. So.
Yeah, I think too, a lot of times with any project, but you get this in this fatigue state as you're working in it. And I think it's really important that you make sure you're continuing to maintain that, because as soon as it goes off the rails a little bit, as John said, it's sometimes unrecoverable. So I think the fatigue and that commitment to, this is what we've decided as an organization, we're investing in it. Don't let it fall down in the next year or the year after, and ensure that you're continuing to iterate it and be involved in it, because it serves so much in the business that if you stop investing in it and what you're doing, you're going to end up with a mess.
Yeah, definitely identify that core team, that mission, the Mars team on everything data-driven for the future.
Cool. So if you want to show your CEO that you've built a great AI success, you actually need to start with a good data project that needs to align your business people and your IT people, because it's not just about the one and zeros, and do that iteratively so that you can show some progress along the way. That sounds like great advice. Thanks a lot for sharing all of that. We're reaching the end of that session. Any final words that you'd want to share, Craig and John, and didn't get a chance to do yet?
No, I just recommend, I believe in anything you do with partnership. So find a really great partner, work with the other vendors and people within it, and build your community, because I think that it's, you can buy a lot of different technology, but the partnership that you have in there and being aligned with their journey and roadmap, especially as it relates to AI, I think is critical.
Yeah, I think that's also great advice on the partner. I know we've been at Akeneo some time, and just our transformation has really come from legacy data and even kind of getting it to where we need to have it today. Just even creation of product models, which has been tremendous. But having a great partner that's along the ride with you that help kind of teach and train your team on what needs to happen there, and really be committed. And be committed, I would say, as soon as you can. This is not a next year thing. This is not a 2-year thing. I think everything with AI is going to happen really quickly, and it's all going to focus on our product data.
Well, thank you very much. And Akeneo is very grateful to be able to partner with both of your companies. Thank you to both of you. Thank you very much for your attention. We'll stick around for a few minutes if there is any further topic you'd want to discuss. So thank you very much and have a great NRF, everyone. Thanks, John. Thanks, Craig.
Thank you.